Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
Sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, so stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of The Crazy Life. No Jen again this week. Hopefully we'll have her back next week. I'm Brian, and joining me as usual is Henno.
Hi, Henno, alcoholic.
Brian, depressed, anxiety, various other things.
Yeah.
If by chance this is the first episode of The Crazy Life you're listening to, go back and get last week's because this is the second half.
Yeah, this is part two.
Yeah, we're doing a list of things to start doing for yourself. And that way you can have the complete list. Or I guess really you could listen to the other one after this. It really doesn't matter too much probably. But yeah. So how's your week been?
It's pretty good. My mom's been here visiting, and like we said, she was going to get the hotel room, and it's turned out to be perfect.
Nice.
And just for like literally for both of us, I just feel like she's in a like she's literally getting her vacation.
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
It kind of dawned on me after a little while that she's also kind of getting one in on Dad. Because she's like, yeah, your father's missing me. And there was just a little bit of glee in her voice.
That's funny. Well, I guess, it is nice to know you're missed,
Because she's been taking on a lot, with his health issues. She really did take on a lot because he hit this like brick wall of like, it's funny. It must be a hereditary thing, but I'm like that. I'm just, I'm a terrible patient. When I'm not feeling well, I just don't want to do a darn thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I don't want to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I will let everything go. And I guess my dad hit that point too, but he's starting to she's saying that he's starting to perk up now because he's feeling better. And it's like, and so she's kind of like, this was a good way to encourage the reality of how much she's been doing, because she has felt a little overwhelmed. So,
sure. But
I just find it's amusing to listen to my mother talk about relationship stuff.
Yeah.
When it mirrors, no, I'm married now, I cohabitate, right. It's like, these are similar things. It's kind of fun. So, but it's been a great visit. She's been taking us out to dinner like every single night, which is, it's awesome. I love it.
Right.
But it's like, after a while, I'm like, you don't have to spend any money. And the best time she took me, we went to the grocery store to say, I want to pay for your groceries. I'm like, okay, I'm not even going to do the whole mom.
Yeah. Come on.
It's just best. Yeah. Like, it's a small town. So everyone, everyone at the grocery store knows me. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, your mom's buying your groceries.
I mean,
just look at it, I'm like, yep.
Yep. You know, it reminds me, there's an episode of The Simpsons where Bart comes outside and he's in his pajamas, and one of the bully kids is like, you know, nice pajamas, your mommy buy them for you? And he's like, well, yeah, who else will buy them for me? You know, like, you're just kind of having that kind of moment, like, yeah, and?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, I am not doing this whole, and it was great. She really wanted to go shopping.
Yeah.
I could just tell she did. And there was this one point I'm like, you know, why don't you guys go down to Twin Falls or something, you know? And so today Sharon's like, you know, I really want to get a new computer. And she's like, let's go down, you know, I think I'm going to go down to Twin Falls. My mom's like, oh, can I come with, you know? And she's like, I want to get some shoes. And so they finally got together, you know, at one point Sharon was like, I want to go to TJ Maxx. And my mom was like, I want to go to Costco. And Sharon's like, I don't want to go to Costco. And my mom's like, I don't want to go to TJ Maxx, but they went and did them anyway, you know?
Right.
So they get, you know, and it's just that point where it's like, I'm not going to be doing this. Mom, you shouldn't, you know, please, you don't have to, but no, that's why she's here.
Yeah. Yeah.
She came out to spoil her kids.
Yeah.
You know, and to have a little vacation. And that's part of, my mom is still great at being a mom.
Yeah.
She likes it.
Right.
She honestly likes it.
Yeah.
And so after a while, I'm just like, there's no point in fighting it.
Yeah. My mom would be the same way if that kind of thing happened. Yeah. You know, if she came and visited me, she'd be the same way. You know, cause like, even now, I mean, I got a brother that's 50 something. He comes over, you know, just hangs out or whatever with me and stuff. And every time he comes over, she's always like, do you have enough food? Are you okay? You know, and he's like, yeah. And she's like, are you sure? You know, like it's, you know, and it's just the mom instinct coming out to, you know, make sure, you know, everyone's taken care of.
Yeah. And I saw what happened in the years before my nephews were born. There was this period where she was a little lost. You know, she didn't seem like she quite, and when my nephews were born, it was like, boom, purpose.
Yeah.
You know, and the other, and I think a lot of it is, you know, for me, recovery's been a great lesson. We've talked about it a million times. Learn to say thank you. I'm also letting go of that old tape, you know, where I don't deserve this. You know, all the times I've, you know, taken advantage of you guys, you know, throwing out the, you know, the, whatever you want to call it, the rescue mat. What am I thinking about?
Like a life preserver, yeah.
What's the thing that's underneath the trapeze? The net.
A net, yeah.
You know, and it was a great reminder. You know, my buddy Dave, I talked about this on one of our previous podcasts where my buddy Dave was sitting there, you know, dealing with his son and some things. And I said, you know, my mom and dad are always going to put the net out there for me.
Yep.
It doesn't matter it doesn't matter how many years go by. It doesn't matter how many times they've done it before. They're always going to do it because they love me.
Yep.
And I said, and I'm like, Dave, you're always going to do it for your son too.
Yeah.
Don't feel guilty about it. It's because you love him.
Yeah.
And it's irrelevant how many times it's happened or blah, blah, blah. You don't even think about it. He's like, you're right. I don't.
Yeah.
I said, well, then just accept it. And acceptance is really a way to be in the moment, because when I'm not in acceptance, then I'm not in the moment. I'm fighting the moment.
Right.
I'm analyzing the moment. I'm thinking why the moment shouldn't be happening because of something that happened in the past, or, you know, or what's going to happen in the future, when it's like, you know, just be in the moment and enjoy it and say thank you.
Yeah.
You know, because we never know if we may never have this moment again. So
yeah, you're right. Yeah, because you're right.
So
because, you know, like my mom did the same thing. It's like, you know, when I ran into, you know, financial issues a few years ago, she was like, move out of your place. I got a room, you know, you can just come live with me, you know, you can eat with us and all, you know, and it was the last thing I wanted to do, you know, because part of it was pride, of course, you know, or ego, however you want to look at that. You know, because I didn't want to be in my mid to late 30s moving in with my mom, you know. But you know, once I got past that, it's like, this is smart. You don't have the money to live on your own. Trying to do so is just going to make things harder for you, you know? And this is here. It's not bothering her, and it's not a burden on her. Once you can get past that stuff, it's like, you know, yeah, I'll do it, you know, cause like I said, it's none of those things, you know, cause having depression, of course, you know, that you tend to, I'm very aware of trying not to be a burden to somebody, you know?
Yep.
And even with her constant, like, she'll always tell me that I'm not. She likes it. She likes having me close, you know? But at the same time, it's, you know, it is tough because it is, you know, like I said, the ego part of it is, it's like, you know, yeah, but I'm not, you know, what kind of guy am I? I'm not supporting myself and that type of thing, you know? So, and it's like, what I am is, I'm a guy who's trying to fix his brain.
Yeah. You're in process. Yeah. You're working on it.
Yeah.
And look at the other part of it is, all right, if you weren't there, she'd be worried about you all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. And honestly, she would be doing essentially what your mom did. She'd be coming down, probably bringing me groceries, you know, trying to slip me money, cause that's what she does, you know.
That's it.
So, and like you said, I've gotten to a point now where usually I'll still kind of pull the, like, are you sure kind of a thing? Cause you know, and then she's like, yeah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. Like, I just, you know, just want to make sure you're okay. Like, if you're offering me money or something, it's like, are you okay? Like, I don't want to take, you know, I don't want to put someone in a bad way so that I can have something. That's not who I am, but yeah. But you're right, though. So that's been a lot of us resist our parents as we get older as far as this kind of stuff goes. And I totally get it, you know, but at the same time, it's like, you know, let them have that joy of helping you, you know?
That's it. That's what, and it's been really cool to just, to enjoy it and be part of it. And it's made, you know, it's parents coming into your world can be a little tough for people.
Yeah.
Because we all have our baggage and our history and stuff. And I love the fact that I'm having a wonderful time and I'm in a great place.
Yeah.
And I don't feel weird about it. It's awesome. And like, you know, like tonight, you know, they'd been out shopping all day and, you know, I said that we might go out to dinner and I called my mom and I was like, you know, she's like, oh, well, I might not, you know, see you tomorrow morning, you know, when I get on the plane. I said, you know what? I'll make myself dinner tonight. I'll call tomorrow to work and say, I'm going to go have breakfast with my mother.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone's going to object to that.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Right. And so it's like, we'll get together tomorrow. I'll go into work a little bit late. It's no big deal. And to that comes from enjoying my time and feeling like it's worth it, you know, and I'm going to see them again in a couple of weeks because I'm going to go there eventually, after I do my little annual travels. But it's like, it's bonus, you know, it's just absolute bonus. So
yeah, that's cool.
Let's see what else. Got back to the gym finally. That was good again. Not real consistent yet, but doing stuff. Oh, I'm still doing the plank challenge every day. Yeah. And I haven't been really good with that, but it's been easy to make up. So I've been doing that. And that also feels good because I am, you know, with, all right, you know, mom's visiting, you know, this and that stuff's been going on. So it's easy to make, you know, I'm notorious for, oh, well, this is the week I'm just not going to work out.
Right.
Well, because I got this little challenge, I'm doing something.
Yeah.
And it feels good. And then, I've got something new. I was listening to Let There Be Talk, the podcast with Dean, and he had a guy on, and I'd saved the episode for a little while because I knew it was something it had popped up, and I'm like, what is this? And it said, no cow bar. And I thought it was going to be like a bar, like go get drinks bar.
Right.
And I start reading it, and it's like, no, it's a dairy-free protein bar. And I'm like, this I want to know about because I can't process whey. So the episode, guy's 21 years old.
Wow.
He's made his own company. He's had several companies. Evidently when he was like 14, he was trading, you know, like reptiles and lizards and buying and selling cars when he was 17.
Yeah.
But I mean, like total entrepreneur, had an issue with protein bars upsetting his stomach, realized he had a milk thing. And this was before there was a lot of plant-based proteins available.
Yeah.
And this, you know, like, let's just say it goes back, you know, 4 years or so. I mean, now there's tons of plant-based proteins. So he starts in his kitchen to make his own bars, takes them out, you know, literally sits in front of a bunch of suits at GNC and they're like, we want to be part of this. Your whole idea is great. These taste like garbage. You need to work on this. So eventually it was, one of the other nutritional store chains, Vita something or whatever, but they literally gave him money and gave him resources. And so he's got a protein bar that's got 20 grams of protein, 1 gram of sugar.
Oh, wow.
And that's huge.
Yeah,
because most of these have become just candy bars with protein.
Yep. I was actually looking at that because after I went to the nutritionist, she told me if I'm going to have any sort of snacks or whatever to, try to find ones that are higher in fiber and protein, and obviously try to cut back on, the carbs and sugars and whatnot. Yep. And I've the Kroger near here has this huge selection of them, which is wild because I remember when there was 3, Yeah. Now there's all these, companies and flavors and all that. And, I was looking at them, I was like, man, there's a lot of these that are high in sugar, so. Yep. Yeah.
And so so these are vegan protein bars. They're great for people with, who have issues with diabetes.
Mm.
So I ordered today and they're doing a special for Dean. It's, if you enter in the promo code TALK20, you get 20% off. So if you go to no cow, as in, cows, not cows.
Right.
You can enter that in and so they do 3 products. They do, the protein bars in a bunch of different flavors. And so they had a multi-pack. So I ordered that so I can just try the different flavors.
Sure.
And then they make cookies too, which I think is great. And the cookies have protein in them also.
Yeah. I've seen those, I forgot what they're called. They're complete cookies or something like that are high protein cookies that are, they're $3 or $4 a piece, I think, or something like that. So when I first saw them, I was like, that's a lot of money for that cookie. And I was like, oh, never mind. It's a protein cookie. It's
yeah, exactly.
All right.
And then the one that and then they're doing fluffernutters, or it's basically a type of a peanut butter, and also in that, and so that one's like a s'more kind of a deal. So I ordered all 3 because this is it's big for me. I can't. I like having a protein supplement with regular meals.
Yeah.
And he even says, he's like, I'm not making a meal replacement. I'm making a meal supplement, something that you can add to, get you by, that kind of a thing.
Right.
And I'm looking forward to something that also has a low amount of sugar. So the one thing he does say that they do have is they do have a little bit higher sodium level. And part of that is for flavor.
Yeah.
And to kind of counteract some of the stevias and those kind of things, it kind of balances that stuff out. And like you basically said, a lot of the vegetable proteins taste like just ugh.
Yeah, I bet.
So they've added some sodium, but most people who are getting into protein bars are also doing something athletic.
Yeah.
And so it's an electrolyte.
Yeah.
So, as long as you're doing workout and stuff, it works as an electrolyte. So that's
just don't sit around eating a box of them.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And that's, yeah. So I will, when they finally come in, which I'm sure, it'll take whatever, 4 days to a week or something, I will report back in. So, so far kind of promising that's my, that'll be hopefully my shut up and take my money for, the crazy life.
Funny.
How about you? What have you been doing?
I went to, I had to go to the doctor today for the, blood work / physical, the yearly one or whatever. And, what's funny is I called and made the appointment a couple weeks ago, or I rescheduled the appointment. And last night, I'm like, I know I have an appointment tomorrow. I have no clue when it is. And usually they call, if you have a Monday appointment, they'll call you on Friday and leave a message, hey, you have an appointment, Well, because of the weather here, they weren't in the office on Friday, so those calls didn't go out. So normally I fall asleep somewhere around 6, 7 a.m., right? And I knew they opened at 8, and I'm like, I'm just going to stay up for another hour rather than go to sleep, wake up, go back to, I'd rather, once I hit the pillow, just get whatever chunk of sleep I get there,
Yeah.
So I stay up, and I'm fighting it to stay awake because I was really getting tired. And no, I mean I made it. I called it 5 after 8, and they're like, the thing's like, there are 10 calls ahead of you, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Everyone's the same place as you are.
And it makes sense. I mean, because they didn't have people in there on Friday, so people probably need to reschedule, and I knew it wasn't going to be a quick phone call or whatever, but. And it's like, man, it sucks because it's one of those times where it's like standing in a long checkout line with one item to where you're like, I could be out of here so fast that you wouldn't even notice that I went through the line, basically. And kind of like this, it's like, all I needed to do is say, hey, what time's my appointment?
Yeah.
That's it. I'm done. But because of the blood work, it was fasting blood work. So last night I'm like, well, I can't remember. I'm like, my appointment's either at like 12:30 or 2:30, but I can't remember which. So obviously I'm going to err on the side of 12:30, you know. So at midnight I quit. I ate at like 11:30 or something like that so that I could get that, you know, I wouldn't be quite as long without eating. And yeah, when I called, they were like, oh yeah, it's at 2:15. And I'm like, I'm like, damn it. Like this is going to be, I'm like, it's going to be 14-ish hours when I walk in there since I've eaten last. Wow. I'm going to be in there for an hour and then I need to still go get food. So it's going to be a good 15 and a half, 16 hours since I've eaten last. And I've been awake most of that time. Again, a lot of people that are doing that intermittent fasting, they'll do it kind of while they sleep. You know, they'll quit eating a certain time, the whatever, and then they won't have breakfast and then they'll kind of get into lunch or whatever. And, anyway, but generally a good chunk of that is at least while you're sleeping. For me, about 3 or 4 hours of that was sleep. The rest of it was awake. And I mean, I'm sitting there last night and, you know, and I'm hungry because normally I eat again, you know, and I'm like, oh, I'm so hungry. But yeah, I go into the doctor today and he's like, oh, well, you know, you'll need to make an appointment for, blood work and, you know, so you can fast. I'm like, oh no, I'm already doing it. And he's like, you are? I was like, yeah. And he's like, you must be hungry. And I'm like, yeah, I'm real hungry. Oh man.
You better watch your fingers, Doc.
Yeah. Well, you know, and he's still got to go through and do, you know, the physical. Then I have to go to the lab to get blood drawn, you know, which that only takes like 2 minutes, but you know, it's like, you know, here's a urine sample. They pull a couple things of blood and I'm out the door, you know, no big deal. And it was great. She was able to find a vein like immediately this time. Last couple times I've gone, they've had trouble. And, you know, they told me that, it's probably because I'm not drinking enough water from the point I get up until, you know, the last time the phlebotomist told me, you know, she's like, you need to drink a good amount of water. She's like, but not a lot of water, you know? She's like, don't go crazy because that can affect it can dilute your urine essentially. And for me, it's important because, you know, I've had protein in my urine in the past. So that's another reason why I have to have blood work. Honestly, for me, it's usually about every 6 months. And that's because of the medicines I'm on, plus the fact that I had protein in my urine before, and I had a little issue with, you know, my kidneys. So they're just staying ahead of it because, you know, all those medicines filter through, you know, those organs. So, they got to make sure that certain numbers aren't elevated or whatever, you know. But, you know, I got a lecture for, you know, which I deserve for not exercising enough. And the last time I saw him, he wanted me to get my eyes, you know, get an eye exam, and I haven't done it yet. So when I said that, he took a step back and looked at me, and again, my doctor's like a 5'2", 3" Asian guy. Like he's probably 60, 65. So, and it's funny, a lot of times his mannerisms and stuff are funny, you know. And he takes a step back and he was like, I told you. And I was like, I know. And I like lowered my head. I was like, I'll do it before I come in again. He laughed, you know, it was just, you know, but, yeah, it was weird though. I was really anxious about this. Like, I don't know why, but I was super anxious about it all weekend. I know, like last night, a lot of the anxiety was I didn't know what time it was, you know, and I was afraid I was going to fall asleep and not wake up in enough time to call and then be like, oh shit, it was at, you know, 2, not at noon, or it was at noon, not at 2, and I've missed it. So, yeah. But yeah, other than that, I've been doing something for podcasts almost every night, it feels like. And it's weird because I like doing it, you know?
Yeah.
But it's weird sometimes how, and it's not that it feels like work, but it kind of feels overwhelming sometimes, even though it's not hard, you know?
Yeah.
Like the stuff I do generally takes, like to post the podcast, do all the little like set up some promotional stuff, all that, usually about an hour. You do it, it's not really a big deal. And this week, like we've been doing on for Salty Language, we've been doing, the interview things the last couple weeks, plus the podcast, plus this podcast, it's weird because it is kind of felt like I'm doing something. I'm doing something, each night because I'm jumping on the computer and, setting up tweets to go out or whatever. And, that's the hustle. I fully understand. That's the gimmick, that's what you're going to do when you're doing this. But it's weird how it hasn't felt overwhelming to me before. And this time it is. And I don't know if I'm in a different kind of place right now, like a funk or something or what it is. Cause it's not, like I said, it's not any harder. It's not like I'm doing a third podcast. Well, I kind of am, but you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I'm taking on another extra podcast or something. Or it wasn't like that week that I did 6 and 5, or 6
it's
nights.
ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. 4 and 5 nights, 5 and 6 nights, whatever it was. So I don't know. It was just kind of weird. But I'm fine. Like even when we're done with this, I'll post this one when we're done. So,
yeah,
it's one of those, I'm just be like, okay, well, you're done and I'll do it and, move on. But it's so weird. Like when I get done, I'm very much like mentally, I feel exhausted, and so I don't know. I've got a psychiatrist appointment coming up here before too long. And, I'm going to mention this stuff to him because, I don't know if this is a sign of medicine not working as well as it should, or if this is just, again, we've had snow every other day. It's been pretty blah. Today was different. It was, I don't know what the temperature got to, but we had sun all day. It started melting some of the snow and all that stuff, which is, great until it freezes overnight and we're going to just have ice everywhere. But I don't know if it's, like weather based or if I'm just in some sort of a, depression funk right now. So definitely something I'm going to watch.
I get how you're feeling. Cause I have weeks like that too.
Yeah.
And I honestly compare it to a lot like when I'm doing music and I've got rehearsals and stuff. It's real similar.
You're right.
Because
yep.
And I think a lot of it is because it's a passion, it is something that we love to do. It's more than just, and passions can kind of feel like work.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's not enjoyable. You still enjoy it, but there's just something about it where you feel like, you feel like you need a break. It's not like you've done anything strenuous or anything, but it's, I think, and I don't know if it's just a personality thing, but I rebel against schedules. And if there's anything scheduled, it's a podcast.
It's true.
It's every week.
Yeah.
And after a while you feel like, I kind of just want like 2 weeks of no schedule.
Right. Well, that's why I had actually thought about it at some point. Cause again, for those who don't know, we've done, 340, what did I put up? 342 this week? 341. We've done 341 regular episodes, 40 some enthusiasts, which is our interview type episodes. So we're really close to 400 episodes of total stuff. And, we've put up something every week with that show, even if it's like there was one week Tony just kind of put up a real short deal, a couple of those weeks I put up, some clips from a thing we did years ago. Like that, like we always try to put something up. We prefer to put something new, but honestly, those 2 times are the only times I can think of where it wasn't new, stuff. So, and I, it's like part of me almost wonders if it's like, if I should just like we should just break that streak. That way there's no pressure from we do it every week, but on the other hand, it's something we're really proud of is that we get something out every week, And we've both missed episodes, I missed a few and Tony's missed a few, it's something we've done, but the show has still gone on and gone up, so yeah. But I mean, that won't overtake me because I'm too proud of the fact that we did it, because especially as somebody who has trouble getting out of bed and just, taking a shower, putting on clean clothes, to do something every week is a huge thing. It's
a huge deal, yeah.
So it's something I'm really proud of. And that was part of when we started, that was part of what I wanted from it, is give me something to be accountable for, But you're right, it's when you spend these days and stuff in there, it's not that you mind doing it necessarily, but you're right, it does. It feels like you need a break. And, and Tony does plenty of it. It's not like it's me doing it all or something, he does a bunch of it. So it's no big deal. And, like I said, it's not that I feel, like I said, it doesn't feel like actual work, but you're right. It does feel more like a passion project when you're, like you draw for yourself after going to school all day, or working all day. And it's like, well, I got to get some drawing in, and you're doing it for yourself. And you're like, oh, it's so tiring, and so, yeah, I'm glad you get it, because I figured you would.
I totally
do.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I know that's probably going to sound like complaining over something really dumb. And it is, but at the same time, I don't know how many people know how much of a grind and hustle these things are. Even though anyone can do one, not everyone will continue to do them. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I've 2 weeks now I've recorded because we don't have, we're not on Gotham Lights. We're not watching Gotham right now because it's not going on. We're redoing these Orville episodes and watching the Orville and doing, so it doesn't matter when the episode comes out. So if we record on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, it doesn't really matter. And like literally last week, I forgot, or week before, like I forgot we'd recorded an episode.
I've done it.
We recorded on like a Wednesday night, and Friday around noon, I was like, oh, there's a podcast I have to post,
Yeah.
Because there wasn't that sense of urgency, and I really wasn't in a big hurry to do it,
right.
Because to be honest, I really want, and this one I wanted to do a really good edit. On that show I customized the intro every single show. Every show has a different intro.
Nice.
Sometimes they're real simple, sometimes they're very complex. But that means I need to go through certain things and pick out this and that. And I do not a huge amount of editing, but I do quite a bit. And like this week, it was the same deal where it was like there were some issues with the recording, and I knew I was going to deal with it. So I procrastinated a little bit on it.
Yeah.
But there's quite a bit of that, not to mention posting it. You need to write everything out. You need to do your show notes. You need to have your links. You have to get everything up there, and there's things you could forget. You have your order of your numbers and all this stuff. And so, this whole idea, when I hear this thing like, oh, it's easy, anyone can do it. It's like, no, it's not easy, and not everyone can do it. I'm sorry, but you can't.
Yep. That's what I was saying, is like anyone can start a podcast, but it's whether or not you're going to continue, because you really have to love what you're doing to continue to do this. Unless you're one of the lucky people who are making money off of it, and which is a very tiny drop in a large ocean, So, and
that's why I say if you're ever having one of those times where you feel a little like you worked by it, there's a reason for that. Because it takes some braining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really does.
It just does.
You're right. It does. It's
So,
but having said all that, I'm going to continue to do it. I'm not going to stop. And I like the fact that, when we do those enthusiast episodes, we tend to do them in a bulk. We put 6 or 7 of them out weekly, or one a week for 6 or so weeks. And then we usually kind of take a break because, first of all, we aren't really looking to do another full-time podcast, so those are, the whole show anyway is fun for us, but those are a different type of fun for us. So, but it's nice we get them out there. It's something different, and then like this show, it's like, I like doing the show because we've talked before, the kind of like the catharsis of just doing the show and some of the talks we've had and whatnot. So it's like, I don't want to miss this one, but I could, like on any week, I could take the week off if I wanted to,
Yep.
For those keeping track at home, I have not, but
Ever.
all 142 episodes of this show I have been on.
And maybe you do need a vacation one week.
Yeah.
Maybe there's going to be 1 week where you say, you know what, this is the one.
It's funny because, one of the, when I missed on Salty Language the first time, I think it was, or second time, I don't remember. It's only been a very few amount of times, but one of the ones I missed was because I had kidney stones and I just physically could not sit up, and there was no way I wanted to sit there. I was in no mood to make jokes, Yeah. And it was funny because, like, although on one hand it was kind of nice to not do it that week, but I realized that once you get a few days past like your normal recording date and you haven't done one, like you get to about 10 days or 9 days, somewhere in that range, you start kind of fiending for it. You want to do the show, it's like, I hate sometimes we'll have to record on like a Wednesday or something, like Tony and I will, and then we don't record again the next week until Friday, so it's a week and a half basically before we record again, and it feels like forever. And we're both like, yeah, let's get back after this, but it doesn't feel like a vacation, It's weird, so yeah. Anyways, we probably talked about this enough, but that's about it for me. I haven't done a whole lot this week. Again, our weather's been garbage, so I've just stayed inside and not done a whole lot.
We at least got some snow, which was great. We've had nothing and everything's all melting, and then we had an inch last night. So I'm like, cool, Mom, you got some snow.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's like, welcome to the resort with no snow.
Yeah, right. Let's go to the ski resort. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
sorry, we're out of snow. Like those times, every once in a while you go to a place like I've been to KFC and they were out of chicken. I've been to Arby's and they were out of roast beef. I've been to Taco Bell. They were out of cheese, and meat or beef, and yeah, it's just funny. Like you go, it's like, this is what you do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like last Friday, I went to my usual breakfast joint and they had no waffle batter. It was downstairs. Somebody had to go find it. It's like, how do you not have your waffle batter?
Right.
Like this is what you do.
Yeah, and yeah, you should realize that you're running low on ingredients and have, does this, did you get a rush on them? Like, was there a giant?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take all your waffles. Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
But yeah, it's kind of the same thing. You go to a resort that has skiing and you're like, oh yeah, well, we don't have any snow. Well, we'll make snow, but.
Yeah. Welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The ski lift is still fun to go on.
Oh, my general manager does that. Hey, if you ever want, you can get on the gondola and go up to the roundhouse and enjoy the view. And it's just like, nobody wants to do that stuff.
Right.
Like, nobody wants to get on a gondola and go up and stand around while other people are skiing. You know? But I appreciate his enthusiasm for the mountain.
Yeah, credit to him for, at least offering all the things that can happen at the resort,
That's it.
This is still a thing you can do. If you choose not to, that's fine.
That's fine too.
Yeah. So.
Well, shall we get back to the list?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. When we last left off.
Previously on The Crazy Life.
Previously. In this episode, John will be played by Brian. Number 10, start trusting that others are doing the best they can. I love this one. This is one of my biggest lessons I needed to learn. Trust that everyone is doing the best they can based on their experience, beliefs, and state. The person who cut you off in traffic might be in a rush to get home to a sick loved one. The person who didn't deliver his project on time might be experiencing a heartbreak. The person who is rude to you in the queue might be having a really bad day. and for those of you not from an island in Britannica, Q means line. You never know what someone else is going through. So instead of making assumptions, trust that they're doing the best that they can. Lead from a place of compassion, not judgment, and you'll spare yourself and others unnecessary pain, anger, and frustration.
Do you know where I think the best application of this is? For me anyway, is customer service at like anywhere you go, whether it's a restaurant, a store of any kind. It's like, you see the people just berate. Well, I told a story a couple weeks ago about the woman yelling at the woman at the doctor's office, because someone smoked outside and, she's just yelling at her. And it's like, maybe that woman had a bad day and that's what's led to this and everything. But it's like, look what you've just done to someone else. It's like, if you're having a bad day, it's bad enough. But when you start, knocking buildings down and breathing fire on everyone else, you're putting all that bad, energy out there and ruining someone else's day. And by making her upset, she might carry it over to someone, like that chain reaction of it. And, but so many people get so mad at and yell at, people, or they get mad at, fast food workers or whatever. And it's like, just give the people a break. Most of the time, they generally aren't trying to short you on food. It's an accident. Yeah. It happens. There's so much pressure on them to boom, 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 get people through. Like if you notice, you'll go to some of these places, they'll have a clock you can see, and they have a time that they're told, we want cars gone by X amount of time. And, if they don't do that, they'll get a talking to, or whatever. So, yeah, you don't know what kind of stress or restraint someone's working under and that kind of thing. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah,
like there's, I think it was our good friend Neil that was relating a story about, some NASCAR driver that was, standing in a line at a grocery store and it was that, that choice of this person was just flailing. And we have no idea why that person is flailing that day. You don't know what tragedy happened to them. Mm-hmm. And boy, would you feel like a jerk if you suddenly got all uppity and it's like, yeah, my whatever, I lost a loved one in my family or whatever. My husband told me he's leaving me or, whatever it was. You have no idea, from that standpoint. And like, I actually love it when I'm in a line and it's obvious it's the new person being trained.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Yeah.
Right. And this is it's like, oh, great. Here's the new person. Or it's like, oh, cool, I get to help the new person getting trained today. Yeah. And that's how I look at it. I go ahead, and there's supervisors sitting behind them and I go, no, go ahead, take your time, dude, you need to learn and I'm here to help you learn.
Yep.
Because the next time I come in, it's going to be better. But all of that aside, the place where I've learned, where I've used this the most, and it kind of can sound like an insult, but it's really not. It's about acceptance, is when, and it really helped me out when I've had relationships fall apart, whether it's a work relationship, a love interest, friendship, or something like that, and the other person just acts in a way that's just baffling. Mm. And when it was pointed out that person's doing the best they can with what they've got.
Yeah.
And just because I have a certain level of, whether it's emotional experience, intellectual knowledge, whatever it is, life experience, whatever. And if that other person doesn't, well, they're going to react differently. Or if their life experiences are different than mine, I don't know how they grew up. They may have had a certain way of living. And then when it comes down to, when the poop hits the proverbial, blade, they react poorly.
Yeah.
Well, here's the simple fact. They're doing the best they can with what they've got.
Yeah. And,
it can come across, especially if you say it to them, well, I understand. You're just doing the best you can with what you got. That can come across as kind of condescending. Yeah. So I don't recommend you actually saying it.
Right.
But to hold it, it was good to me to be able to, it was so big for me to realize that we're, and we all are, and this applies to me too. I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah.
And if I can extend that to somebody else, I can be a little more compassionate and understanding.
Yeah. Now, having said all of that,
going.
there is nothing wrong with if someone is like hateful towards you or rude or what. There's nothing wrong with standing up for yourself or
absolutely not
talking to a supervisor or whatever at that point.
Yep.
But it's, I'm just meaning just in general, it's like just give people a little bit of a break. They're probably, honestly, really the place people need it more than anything is probably just driving, Yeah,
that's, yeah. Well, I like this. And if you really need to, if you need to feel slightly superior, it's a great way of feeling that way. Hey, you're just doing the best you can.
Yeah. Right. Like, I understand. You have you have a limited toolbox. I get it. Yeah. That's really what it's coming across as. It's like, I get it. Yeah. You're dumb or whatever, that kind of it feels like that kind of put down.
Yeah. But it really can be a great tool.
It is the truth. And, and again, as you've said various times on here too, is don't compare your, insides to someone else's outsides, Yep. Because that's the thing. You don't know. Maybe, there's days where, I just, for some reason, I am just horrible to be around. And I know it and it's my depression. It's just, there are just some days when that happens. I don't use it as an excuse. What I usually do is I just tell people, hey, if I'm this, here's why, and hope that they understand and hope that at some point through the day I've not been a jerk to them.
Well, and imagine if somebody meets you for the first time and the impression they get that sticks with them for a long time was your bad day.
Yeah.
And all that was you were doing the best you could that day.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe tomorrow I'll do better.
Yeah.
And if we can give people that kind of a benefit, I mean, like we talk about this with podcasts, give us the 3-episode challenge, give me the 3-day challenge.
Yeah.
See if you like me 3 days.
Right.
And if I'm a jerk after day 3, well, then I'm just a jerk.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. So, you've got a sample size at that point,
Yeah, exactly. With some people, quite generous.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, that's true. That's what I said. It's just an overall thing. Just try to just be more understanding of somebody. Cause again, you really don't know what everyone's dealing with something. We've all got some, whether it's, job pressure at home, or you've got a mental illness, you've got cancer, whatever it is. You, like Heno said, you lost a loved one, just any of that stuff. So many of us are dealing with that so often that, and don't get me wrong, there's just rude people. There's just some people that you're like, wow, you shouldn't be doing this job. Like, you're beyond even acceptable rude. And I've been there a few times, where someone has made a mistake and you're like, hey, you made a mistake. And then they get really defensive and it's, and you're like, look, I was nice about it the first time. So, yeah.
So number 11 is start asking better questions. Questions such as, what can go wrong? Or what if I screw up? Simply don't have a positive answer. Your mind will go looking for whatever answers you ask for. So start asking wisely. Sure, you can ask them to get clear on the worst case scenario, but then make sure to shift focus. As Tony Robbins said, quality questions create a quality life. Successful people ask better questions, and as a result, they get better answers. Instead, try asking questions such as, how can I make this a success? And how can I find the best solution to this situation? Yeah. And I like that last one. I try to do that at work a lot. Okay, how can we get into how can we find the best solution for this?
Yeah.
How can we move towards a solution rather than getting caught up in, all right, what went wrong?
Yeah, or whose fault is it? Those kind of things sometimes.
Whose fault is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's that might even be later somewhere about blaming, but I think that it comes down to those are great ways to rather than to look to point a finger is look for, okay, asking a question leads to growth. It through communication, through sharing ideas.
Yeah.
It can create a potentially negative, thing in a relationship or in a work situation or life situation, or even my own brain better.
Yeah.
If I just ask a better question.
Yep. It's true. Well, and not to mention the better questions you ask, even not just in this, but in the actual sense of this, in that the better the question is that you ask, the more likely you are to get the answer you actually seek. You know, if you're vague, you're asking a broad question, you're going to get a broad answer. You know, if you don't want that, then don't ask that, you know. It's, you know, certain places, obviously, you know, doing an interview, open-ended questions are great. In a conversation, sometimes, you know, like a first date or something like that, sure. But, you know, if you're in a meeting, asking open-ended questions does not move toward, you know, fixing the problem or whatever most of the time. It's like answering a question with a question kind of a thing. So you just, you know, got to know when to ask certain things, when it's time to narrow the focus of it down versus, you know, as well as this other, which is just the wording of it is, you know, very important.
And I guarantee if you've ever seen a therapist, pay attention to the questions they're asking you.
Yes.
They're probably the questions you should be asking yourself.
Yep.
I learned that early on with one of my mentors who would always ask, well, what's your motivation? And it's weird how I'd never asked myself that.
Right? Yeah.
Like, what's your motive?
Yeah.
What's your motivation? You know, and now, and that goes on to my list of things I need to ask myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what is Heno's motivation for this?
Yeah.
What am I trying to get out of it? And that's, you know, therapists ask those kind of questions too. They lead us to find our own answers. So, you know, make a list of the questions that get asked, especially if, you know, for me, I used to walk into that one over and over again.
Yeah.
You know, like we'd be, so what's your motivation? It's like, I walked right into that one, didn't I?
Right. Reminds me of when I was in art school, you know, and they basically the same question, you know, like, what was your inspiration or what was your, and you're like, like, you know, to feel stuff. And, you know, that's interchangeable with therapy too, you know, it's like,
yeah, exactly.
Feel things.
So number 12 is start caring about things that actually matter. If you care too much about things such as judgment and criticism, you mostly keep yourself stuck and paralyzed unless you find things to care more about. For example, do you care more about what others might think or living life true to yourself? Do you care more about negative comments or being a force for good in this world? Don't numb your care. Instead, care more about things that actually matter to you. Which I'm kind of having a little tough time wrapping my brain around that one.
Yeah.
It's kind of like think positive.
Well, the only thing I could think of would be like realizing that sometimes a lot of us will do the I don't have time for this concept. And you remember a while ago I made a comment, I read an article to where the person was like, every time you say I don't have time for something, say you don't matter or you're not a priority kind of a thing. And I think that might apply in this, in that, you know, sometimes we put things aside that we really enjoy because we're worried about something that we can't control or something that we, you know, like kind of a thing, you know, like say with music or something, you know, or me with art or whatever it is, you know, it's like we put it aside because we got to worry about, I don't know, whatever, you know, something just ridiculous that again, we'll lose sleep over, we'll think about for 2 days, you know, and in the end it's like, yeah, we couldn't change that, you know, like you had to just wait and then react to what's going on with it or something. So
I think from an artistic standpoint, that first question, like, do you care more about what others might think or living life true to yourself? Meaning, are you going to just be you or are you going to be the you that you think others think you should be?
Yeah.
And like, you know, do I just want to be the guitar player that I can be?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to make my art or do I want to make art that somehow is better for other people to judge?
Yeah.
And I really don't, I spent too much of my life in that world. I don't want to be there anymore.
Yeah.
And I really don't.
It's really funny because like when you go to, like art school, that's kind of what they teach you is how to fit in the box, even though you'd think with artists, it'd be more of how to think out of, you know, and break the walls down of that kind of thing. But a lot of it really is this, you know, and for some fields that's more understandable than like graphic design. It's more understandable than illustration, you know, because a lot of times in illustration you have kind of more free reign. You know, they both have their restrictions, of course, but, I'm with you. I think that's really kind of what, to me, that's what it is. It's just about, whether it's prioritizing or it's just literally like going, I'm miserable, and finding things that matter to you. Like I'm drifting through my life doing this, and this. It's like, well, find something I'm passionate about. Find something that makes me happy, that whatever,
Yeah. True enough. All right. Number 13. Start trusting yourself wholeheartedly. Just like any other relationships, just like any other relationships, the one with yourself needs to be fueled, nurtured, and taken care of. When you feel curious, intrigued, or excited about something, trust that it's happening for a reason. When you get red flags about a person or situation, trust that it's also happening for a reason. Start acting like you trust yourself fully. Behave like you're in full connection with your inner self and always guided. The more you act like you trust and believe in yourself, the more that will actualize for you. That has always been a very difficult lesson for me, because if I want something, I don't trust myself.
Yeah.
I may have something that pops up, but if I want something, I ignore it.
Yeah. I'm all with you on that one. I think I go through the same thing at times, as it's, it is really hard. Like for me, it's based on, low self-confidence over the years and stuff that, I didn't trust myself. Or honestly, here's a great, kind of a thing for me. I don't know if this is exactly this or not, but, for the longest time, I would go by basically whatever my gut feeling was, kind of like, you think about it for a little bit and you're just like, this doesn't chew right in my mouth, so no, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And as my self-confidence kind of eroded, I noticed that I was trusting my gut less and less and less. And what I was doing in my head, it was, oh, well, you're becoming more logical. Instead of going with feeling, you're going with logic. And really what I didn't realize was happening is I was going with distorted thinking, so I had actually turned the dial completely past where I wanted to stop,
Wow, that's a great connection.
Yeah. So that's kind of my thing.
It's so true because you absolutely nailed it. I think, not to mention brought up the distorted thinking list again. Yep. Slipped that one right in there, didn't you?
Yep.
No, I think that's a great way of looking at it, because there's the one thing that I've shared on here a bunch of times is when I feel my intuition is right on,
mm-hmm.
life goes real well for me. It's like I'm in tune. I'm seeing things before it actually happens. And you're right. The opposite of my intuition tends to be the distorted thinking list.
Right.
It really is.
Well, and it makes sense though, because when you feel something is like a gut feeling, like you have a really strong conviction about something, and then it just blows up in your face. It's all like, relationships would be a perfect example. If somebody is in bad relationship after bad relationship, at some point they're going to be, I can't trust my gut. Like I can't trust myself because clearly I'm putting myself in bad situations, and,
catastrophic thinking.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that's a form of distorted thinking, even though there is truth in that, that
there is.
If you keep ending up in bad relationships, there may be a time to take a quick step back and like, am I doing something here that's putting me in this position, or is this just, weird luck? But either way, it's like if you trust your gut and it's wrong, it's a real kind of jarring thing sometimes,
I think that one right there is falls right in with those ask better questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you start kind of asking those questions of yourself, am I trusting myself or am I not? I think those make good questions for ourselves.
I used to do, and this is forever ago, like in high school, I think it was, or no, when I first started college, I did basically from my head, I would write something down, like this is the problem, basically. Then I would write down my immediate feeling. And then I would, because it's me, overanalyze it for a week. And then go back and go, do I still feel this way? Or basically, have I changed my mind kind of a thing. And I realized that a lot of those times that the gut feeling is what I would keep going back to. Even when I didn't have as high a self-esteem with it, I noticed that when I keep thinking about something, there'd always be that little, tug that would, pull you back and go, yeah, but this just feels right. And eventually, sometimes I would trust myself. There's a lot of times I wouldn't, but there, sometimes the feeling was so strong I couldn't ignore it, basically.
Yep. So our next one is start celebrating your obstacles. For some reason, this just always makes me think of Jen. Obstacles do not block the path. They are the path. The first time I heard this Zen proverb, I didn't get it. How could obstacles be the path? This idea of obstacles not standing in the way, but actually being the way sounded like alien language to me. But here's what I discovered. Desires are powerful. Life is always guiding us towards what we want, but in that process, blockages and fears will be surfaced so that they can be seen and or healed. So when you're dealing with an obstacle like fear, don't avoid it. Instead, push yourself to work through it. Every obstacle you face brings you one step closer to your dreams. And I think that's like so many of our wins for the week tend to be those moments right there. That's why I think it reminds me of Jen. She is so awesome at celebrating those little victories.
Yeah.
And I guess here's the key. It's easy to 2020 hindsight it and celebrate it, but it's another thing to see it in front of you and celebrate it.
Yeah.
Because that's not our normal thing.
Right.
Oh, well, this thing is not working out the way I wanted to, so I'm going to celebrate it.
Yeah. Nope.
No one says that.
Right.
The first time I had a friend of mine share this, and I think I've shared it on here before, goes all the way to Oregon for her daughter. Daughter's pregnant, supposed to have a baby. She's got a limited amount of time. She's there the whole time. Nothing happens. No baby. Gets home, back to here. Guess what happens? Baby was born.
Right.
Literally says, but this is exactly what was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Celebrated it.
Mm-hmm.
And absolutely celebrated it. And didn't say, didn't get mad at it, just celebrated the fact that it happened when I wasn't there and said, I'll be there next weekend.
Well, really think about it. I mean, again, look at this logically here in that doing anything but that, it's
kind of pointless, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't change it. You can't turn time backwards so that you can then be there. Yeah. You went, you tried. The baby just decided that, that it wasn't going to play on your schedule. And, as soon as you left, then the kid, decided to show up. But yeah, it's really at that point, you can't do anything about it. And really, I mean, you might be disappointed you weren't there, but it's not really a big deal, especially not in the world we live in now. The odds are there's 9,000 pictures. There's probably video. Yep. There's probably some updates on Snapchat. And, it's like there's probably a way you can almost feel like you were there, Yeah.
And in 2 years from now, when you've spent all this quality time, that one day is going to be irrelevant. And I think that is also the case with a lot of the obstacles we face in life. In the moment, it always seems so monstrous. Yeah. But with 2020 hindsight, it's actually a small thing. Mm-hmm. And I started, for myself, the more I started putting those things into perspective after I got through with them, the less I started seeing them as a huge mountain. Yeah. The more I went, oh, you know what? After about a month or two, that wasn't a big deal. So don't fear this one either.
Right. And that's where it's important that, how it talked on about pushing through things. That's why when you do push through, like you said, you celebrate that. And the next time you come to something similar, you go, I've already done this. I succeeded at this. Yeah. I can do this. And that should hopefully give you, some confidence toward whatever it is you're going forward. Fear can still be a terrible thing. I know that, but
especially when it's unknown. Yeah. When it's something that's in front of you where you're like, okay, now everything's going to change. Yeah. And then you have to go, okay, well, that one time that I wanted this to happen, but it didn't happen and it led me down into a direction I would have never have thought of. Right. It worked out great. Well, maybe this is going to happen this time too.
Yeah. I was talking with somebody online the other night, actually, that had that kind of experience. They went for a job interview, didn't get that job, but while they were there, got to talking with somebody in the lobby or whatever, got a different job offer.
Yep.
You know, didn't get the job they were preparing for and really wanted, ended up with something else. And they were like, you know, this is kind of a cool challenge. Like, I think this is going to be, you know, right up my alley. And it was like, see, that's how sometimes life lifes you that way, you know?
Yep.
And again, celebrate those or whatever. The fact that you didn't come out of the interview kicking and screaming and throwing things or whatever, you know, I just, you know, you ended up where you're supposed to be. It's, you know, whether you believe in a divine power or not, doesn't matter. You ended up where you're supposed to be.
Hey, that's it.
You know, because if you weren't supposed to be there, you wouldn't be there.
You wouldn't be there. Yeah. If that's where you're at, then you're supposed to be there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, unless you're lost, then that's a different story.
Then, that's something else. Yeah.
No, I'm supposed to be over there. Oh, man.
Our next one is start getting perspective on your problems. I once heard someone say the problem with problems is that we think we're not supposed to have any. That's so true.
Yeah, it is.
Problems might not always feel great, but they propel us forward. They shed light on what isn't working so that we can find, explore, and investigate better solutions. In moments of struggle, remind yourself that all over this planet, people are fighting for their survival. Acknowledge your problems, but then shift towards finding a solution. What do you need to progress? Where and from whom can you gain clarity, confidence, and support to move forward? Yeah, that's that whole thing with when I realized that I am supposed to have emotional reactions to things.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to have an emotional reaction to it, but I have them. That's normal. And the same thing with problems. Problems happen too. You know, it's like I'm supposed to feel sad when certain things happen in life. And I you know, like, my friend Bill, he puts this great. He's like, life should be a series of up and downs. Mm. When you're in the hospital, nobody wants to see a flat line. You want the line to be going up and down.
Yeah.
And up and
it's
down.
accurate. Yeah, I certainly do.
Like,
yeah.
You know, I just want I'm okay with my ups, and we've shared this a lot. I'm okay with my ups not being as up as long as my bottoms aren't as low as before.
I'm totally with you. That is a sacrifice I would gladly make. You know, it's like, okay, if I don't have the deep floors that I have, but I also, in turn, I have to give up the really high highs. Okay, I'll take that because those lows suck so bad that, you know,
they do.
You don't want to be, and I'm talking, you know, extreme lows. I'm not talking just a normal whatever, but yeah, it's funny how even those of us that try really hard to keep perspective need perspective.
It's so true.
Because you and I, we try, you know, which is all anybody can do, you know. But also, how many times have you and I been talking and we'll make the comment of, you know, first world problems, you know, and it's
luxury problems.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I'm sitting here griping about podcasting. You know, it's like there's people with no water.
Yeah, well, it says that there are people out there that are fighting for their survival.
Exactly. You know, now don't get me wrong. I've never liked the it could be worse mentality, even though it works. It's a double-edged sword because just because something could be worse doesn't mean that my suffering isn't bad, you know, or someone else's, you know. But on the flip side of that, if you, wow, I just lost my thought.
It's
man,
like,
I just totally lost it.
Yeah, you shouldn't deny people their feelings, but there's a point where it's also like, all right, come on.
Yeah. That's where I was going with it. Yeah, there are definitely those times where you're like, really, dude? Like, take a step back for a minute. Let's look at your life. Like, really, dude?
My ex would talk about, she went to India and she found this town where everything was made out of dung, basically. Yeah. They built their houses out of dung. Their whole freaking village was dung. And when the monsoon came, the whole village washed away while they were out in the fields farming. Yeah. Happened every year. But the rain brought their crops. And, you know, and that was her perspective that, you know, anytime that she started getting into some little luxury issues, it's like, I'm not living in the dung mud village.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the thing is like, it's always that way. It's like, when my depression's bad, it's bad. It sucks. I don't want to be there. And it's, it's terrible. At that time, it's the worst thing happening to me.
Yeah.
But there are also people out there that like are trying to kill themselves. There's, or hurting others. There's so many other things like that it's, even within that darkness, I can sometimes gain perspective. As long as somebody's not smarmy about it with, well, it could be worse. And it's like, like you just made it worse.
Thanks for that platitude.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at with that one is and it never hurts. There's just sometimes that no matter what, if you're having a bad day, someday, like we've talked before, you just got to have a tantrum, get it out of your system and move on.
Yep.
But, don't continue it. Don't hold it. And if you realize that you're kind of holding on to something like that, seriously, start looking at the world. Look at how many people don't have clean water. Look how many, and not just in other countries, in this country, in the U.S., we got people like up in Flint that are, still iffy about their water, and stuff. It's like, these are, you could have it so much worse, and so sometimes you do need to take that as kind of a good kick in the pants to, to zip your lip and move forward,
Our next item is start embracing your vulnerability. Vulnerability is scary, yet it's the gateway to growth, change, and connection. It's the last thing we want to show in ourselves, but the first thing we look for in others. We cannot shut out pain, shame, and disappointment without also blocking love, growth, and connection. So have the courage to allow your deepest and most fragile parts to be seen. Allow your heart to crack right open and something beautiful will happen. You'll be able to transform difficult feelings into love, strength, and compassion. And I think that's just hard for a lot of people to do.
Mm-hmm.
But we share about this all the time. You'll never know if you can help somebody unless you open up.
Yeah.
If I don't open up, I'll never know whether someone's going through the same thing that I'm going through if I keep it all locked up inside.
Yep.
Maybe someone is going through the exact same thing that I'm going through, and we can help each other.
Right.
And they're never going to know that about me unless I say ouch, and I'm never going to know that about them unless they do the same. So it's that, those. It's great when everyone, hey, how you doing today? Oh, I'm doing great.
Mm-hmm.
Some days I'm not doing great.
Right. But nobody wants to hear that.
No.
I shouldn't say nobody, always there's some, but yeah.
But that's the thing. And it's like, there are some people, if they say, how are you doing today? And I'm just going to say, not so bueno.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say to the person that is going to honestly care.
Yeah.
But that's, I gain nothing by putting on the confident face when I'm not necessarily feeling confident all the time.
Yeah.
There are times and places where you need to act as if, but there's also those times where you just need to be true to yourself.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
At least for me.
And, I can give two examples from myself here, which is one of which is, and I've talked about this, about being completely honest with your doctor. Like if you realize that you're going through depression, don't exaggerate it, but also don't undersell it. Make sure they understand this is my worst point. This is my daily thing. Be honest. If they give you those things when you go into the doctor, and it's basically 10 questions about depression or whatever, be honest on them, but also, again, make sure you're taking a step back and perspective on it a little bit too, some of those questions on those everybody gets. But anyway, but by showing your vulnerability and putting the truth on those forms, that allows them to do a better job. The more honest you are with your doctors, the more they can help you. If you tell them things aren't that bad, they will treat you like things are not that bad. you know? And if you tell them things are bad and they still treat you like things are not that bad, as we've said many times on here before, find another doctor, you know?
Yeah.
And the other thing is essentially this podcast, which is that I took something that was, and by, I should say we, I don't, not I, but we have taken a vulnerability of ours and we've essentially turned it into what we all feel is a strength. You know, we get a lot out of this. We've had people tell us that they've gotten something out of this, you know, and that's awesome. And it's great when you can take a vulnerability and turn it into a strength, you know, because it, like you said, it's really hard to just put yourself out there sometimes. And, you know, again, yeah, I did it a little bit with, you know, putting a picture out of, you know, and saying, hey, tell me something you like about me or whatever, or putting my art out there, that kind of stuff, that it really is revealing part of me that I normally was keeping to myself, essentially, you know. So there's various ways you can do it. Not all of them have to be big, you know, type things. It can just be little things that, you know, like you said, if someone asks you how you're doing and you're not okay, you've seen t-shirts probably or various things. It's okay to not be okay. You know, it is very okay, you know, so tell people it, you know, like I said, also be prepared for them to not really want the answer, but cause it's
which
true.
actually leads to the next one, which is start spending time with the right people.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Like seriously, there's like,
yeah.
Like, you covered it pretty well. I mean, if you have that person that mentor or whoever, that your doctor, and if they're not, it's like go find somebody else. Like Brian always says, take the test drive.
Yeah, there's tons of doctors out there willing to help. You know, that's their job. Yeah. That's what they went to school for. It's their specialties, whatever. They're just waiting. You know.
Yeah. I like the positive. It's got to, you know, I think we've already covered the problems, but the solution here is great. Make sure to surround yourself with a tribe that reflects how you want to feel and be and what you want to do and have. If you don't have that today, then make space for those people to come into your life. And I think that's a key, is many of us will oftentimes stay, and boy, Jen has sure shared this with us, and I've done it myself, is keep people in my life that, because I'm afraid of what would happen if they're no longer there, or I'm afraid they're the only one. And really all I was doing was just blocking space for a new person to come into my life that was better for me.
Yep.
That's the truth.
It really is. You know, you've seen all those things over time where, you know, cut toxic people out of your life and all this. And so many people, I can't because of it. It's like, no, you can. You really can. You'll feel so much better. And realistically, if you cut somebody out of your life and they miss you, they'll come back to you, you know? So, you know, at some point your paths will cross, essentially. So, you know, like you just said, it's like if someone is like, if you're trying to move forward, like right now, I've been trying to, you know, keep my thoughts positive. I've been trying to choose, you know, to reframe things in that manner. If I'm around somebody who's just negative, it drives me crazy. I can't, it drags me down is what it does, you know? So for my sake, I try not to spend time with people like that because as it says right there, do they give you energy or drain you? You know, they drain me. And, you know, part of it's because I'm a helper, you know, like I want to make things better. But, a lot of it is just that it's like, you know, they'll say whatever and you're like, no, this might be good. You know, example I gave a couple weeks ago, you know, like, well, you don't know what's going to happen. It could be good just as easily as it could be bad. So let's just try to stay over here. And if it turns out bad, we'll handle it. You know, we're adults. Yep. It's, you know, we can handle stuff.
That is the truth. Our 18th is start taking 100% responsibility for your life. And this is one that I share all the time.
This is a very difficult one for a lot of people.
Yep. Yeah. First time I heard this, I wasn't comfortable. Yet the minute I accepted it, I was empowered. To accept and take full responsibility for all areas of your life, even where you feel behind, mistreated, or wronged, isn't easy, but it's the only way to change them. By taking responsibility, you bring your power back home where it belongs, to you. So no matter how difficult it might seem, claim full responsibility for your life. You, not someone else, will get you where you want to go. Yep. And that this is so important, and part of 12-step programs is to own it, to own everything that happens, because I can't change people, situations, or places. The only thing I can change is me and my attitude. And so if it's 100% my responsibility, then it's 100% my opportunity.
Yep.
And that's what's changed my life for me. I used to blame other people for my woes. It was the things that I drank over. And as long as I was blaming them, nothing could change, because I can't change them. They're going to be who they're going to be. And you know, I have a friend that's really struggling with this. I've mentioned his name before, and I don't need to anymore.
Yeah.
I
think everybody probably knows somebody that does this. You know, it's pretty common.
And I can't. I try to share this. You know, that it's like when you own it, you also own the way out. If you own the way you got in, you own the way out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my experience now. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to get this, but once I got it, and it took a lot of writing. I did a lot of writing on this. It was about literally writing down every single thing that I had a resentment towards.
Yeah.
What did it do for me? And what was my part in it?
Yeah.
And when I started looking at my part in it, I started finding freedom from all those things.
Right. I was going to say that. I think that's probably a pretty decent exercise for a lot of people to do, you know, because it really will gain a different perspective. Because you're right, it's so easy to, whenever something happens, oh, well, this happened and this happened, and, you know, somebody will be like, well, that happened to them too, but they succeeded, or they did whatever, and it's like, well, yeah, but I also had, you know, it's like, and you're trying to, you know, pile on, essentially, instead of just going, yeah, you know what? I sabotaged myself. You know, my negative thinking is what did that to me, or whatever it is. You know, I looked for an excuse to get out of something. You know, I was just telling my mom about that earlier. You know, it was like, was it last year? I think it was, or the year before, when I told my therapist that I was going to start using maybe less and start using no more. And not in a negative way, but if I'm probably not going to be there, don't give a maybe, just say no. And, you know, you can change your mind to yes generally on a lot of things later. Because when you say maybe, people, for some reason, they immediately put you in the yes category. And it's not. Maybe is a in between, you know, it's really you not making a decision is what it is.
Yeah.
So when you say no, that's you taking, you know, that's me taking the responsibility for my life at that point. You know, like, no, I don't want to do that. And this, you know, whatever. And people will react. That's their right. And then, you know, it's all, you know, everybody reacts from that point. But in the end, I don't feel like someone else is guiding or pushing me on a path. I've chosen to not do something, or I've chosen to do something, you know, and it's my decision. It's not, you know, I'm not doing it because of guilt or because, oh, well, they'll think this of me. Because if you're thinking in those terms, Distorted Thinking Worksheet is something you should take a look at.
It's
it does.
The minute I did this was when I stopped looking for those loopholes.
Right. And that's the
what
key.
it was.
That's really all it is. Like you said, you're looking for a loophole, and you're using, alcohol to cover it up too, you know?
Yeah.
And
I will never have an opportunity to grow if there's always a loophole.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because I really didn't want to. I didn't understand. I didn't know how to. And once I stopped looking for the loopholes, I actually was able to change.
It really is
huge.
Years ago, I worked at a video store, and the district manager told me one time he loved working with me because I have always been the type that if he walked in and whatever was going on wasn't done, I'd say, nope, we didn't do it. Here's what we're going to do to make it right. You know, here's how we're going to get moving forward. Yeah. And he's like, I love it. He's like, even if you know you're going to get a chewing, you know, you're going to get chewed out for it. He's like, you look me right in the eye and are like, we didn't do it. Here's why. Here's what we're doing. And he's like, I would rather deal with that every day than somebody who hems and haws or makes excuses or tries to find little ways out of things. You know, like, I just owned it. It's like, I'm an adult. I'm going to own it, take what's coming and move forward. You know, if I get fired, I get fired. This has already been done. We've already done this. I can't change that. All I can do now is say, this is what I'm going to do going forward.
Yep.
You know, and those things are really important. And again, not using loopholes or any sort of a crutch to kind of, you know, get you out of something or whatever. It's, you know, it really is about just taking, and a lot of it's just, you know, as I've said before, like taking your power back. Like, don't put your power in other people, what they think of you or what they want you to do or blah, 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 you know. And also on the flip of that, don't give them all the like this, you know, take 100% responsibility. Don't try pawning it off on somebody else, you know.
Yeah.
That's the adult thing to do.
It's hard though, because if you're playing the victim, you know, it's like, if you want to be the victim, you're going to be the victim.
Yep.
And and there's nothing you can do about it now. You've literally, what you just said, you've given any sort of power that you had to get past the situation. You've given it away because it's not my fault. It's not my fault. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, then it's not your solution.
Right. Well, it's like, okay, I'm not going to go to this party because so-and-so is going to be there. You know, I'm doing this because now I'm, you know, I'm controlling this situation. It's like, no, what you just did was give them all that power that, first of all, they didn't ask for. Second of all, they don't deserve,
so
you know, like, you're giving all that to someone else. Instead of going, I'm going to go to this party, I'm going to act like a civilized adult. If they can't, that's their problem. They become the jerk, you know, like, kind of a thing. And that, like I said, I was just telling my mom earlier today, I said, one of the things I absolutely cannot stand anymore is essentially adults acting like children. I can't stand it. You know, like playing stupid games, acting petty, just all these things that, you know, high school kids do or elementary school kids do. And it's like, come on, you know, it's like some of that stuff, whatever, but it's, you know, it's like, grow up, own what you've done. You know, if you did something wrong, just own it. Don't lie. Don't come up with all these excuses. Just own it. Done. That's the end of it. You know, so much easier to just tell the truth and take your lumps and move forward than to create a web of lies that you have to remember.
That somebody shows you on Instagram later.
Right. Yeah, it's just...
Oh, wow, somebody filmed that. Oops.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing, is in the world we live in, you can't... It's hard to pull those kind of scenarios because everybody's got a camera.
All right, our final item is start creating the life you want now. Once my situation is different, I'll act on my dream. Or once I'm in a relationship, I'll start loving myself. But to live the life you desire, you're going to have to create it now, not sometime in the future. So conditions or timing will never be perfect. So instead ask yourself, if I had all the love, money, time, confidence, and knowledge I desire, how would I think, act, and feel? Step into that version of yourself now. And this just reminds me of Angela when she would always talk about, you know, like, don't wait until you've got your quote unquote bikini body to go on vacation.
Yep.
Go on vacation.
Right.
If your body's in a bikini, you've got a bikini body.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and I also liked, I don't remember if it was her or you that brought up the, you know, with New Year's resolutions. You know, it's like, why wait for 2 weeks to start? Like, start now. Start today.
Yeah.
Don't wait 2 weeks. Don't wait a month. Having said that, this is one that I'm really guilty of. So guilty of. And I've always been that person that, again, there's an image in my head, and if things don't live up to that, then in my head, it's not worth starting. And that's something I've been working on in therapy, because I understand that is a massive roadblock, you know? So, you know, for example, I'd be like, you know what? I want to draw. I want to get back to drawing. And I'll sit here and I'll look over at my, art supply chest and be like, I gotta dig all my stuff out. I gotta move some things to get to it. It's, you know, kind of a deal. instead of just going, okay, well, if this is really what I want, why am I letting a couple boxes stop me?
Yeah.
You know, this kind of thing. It's why I made a comment before. I cleaned my desk off, which is now a mess again. But I cleaned my desk off to give me space to do that. I brought some sketchbooks and pencils. I got them out so I could do it. And, you know, there's other stuff, though, that, you know, I've done that where I'll put it off because I'll be like, oh, well, I got to wait for this or I got to wait for this. And first of all, you don't know if you're ever going to make it that far. I mean, not to sound grim, but it's the truth, you know?
It's true.
And also, you know, why wait 3 weeks, a month, a year, whatever it is, to start being happy?
Yep.
Why wouldn't you want to start that this second? Right? Again, I'm the biggest hypocrite in the world saying these things. I'm owning that. See? Adult, I own my stuff. But anyway, it's, you know, that's the thing. I can't fathom sometimes why people do this. Like, they'll put stuff off and you're like, there's no, like, you can do this. And like, oh, no. And then they start down the excuse path. And it's like,
yep.
How bad do you want this? Like, do you really want to do this? Or is this just something you just throw out there so people will leave you alone? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that is, like you said, it's the biggest roadblock you can throw up.
Yeah. Is
unless it's perfect or unless it falls together exactly how I want, it's not even worth starting.
Yeah.
And you know, and you know, it's then, yeah, we're just putting off our happiness and our joy.
Yeah, exactly. And why would you want to do that? You know?
Yeah.
When I told my therapist that I have that picture in my head, and if I can't get things that way, I don't want to finish or even start things, her eyes got so big.
Oh, I bet.
Cause you could just tell she was just like, really, you know, and right then I made a mental note, like, this is something to bring up again, because clearly I need to talk about this. Like, I need to work through something here. And it's the truth. I do. Fear is my biggest problem, more than depression, more than anxiety. I just have outright fear of things, and I run. If I run up against something that I'm afraid of, I just turn the other way and take off, you know? And it's been really hard because it's gotten more and more control over me over the years, you know? So along with the depression, this is the stuff now I'm kind of getting into in therapy, is like, okay, let's start approaching these fears and try to start getting through some of this stuff, because this stuff is, and not to sound like I'm making excuses, but this stuff is what's standing in my way. You know, if I could get rid of these mental roadblocks, there's nothing stopping me. Like I've made a comment. And right now I'm unemployed. I can look at that as very depressing, or I can look at that as I can do whatever I want to do, as far as like, I can go back to school. I could go look for a different job. I have options. You know, I can look and take my time at these options, where most people don't have that luxury. You know, you have to have a job. You move into it and you have to have a job, you know. So, but fear is completely, it shuts me down in so many ways that it's so hard, you know, to live. And there's so many days where I know it. I straight out own it with stuff like this too. And and it's awful. You know, there's nothing worse than knowing what exactly is going on like that, and you can't do a thing about it, you know? So yeah, that's, you know, if you have the ability to, you know, push into your fears a little bit, and start, you know, again, be careful with pushing into your fears, because, you know, don't go too far, you know, baby steps, as it says right underneath this thing, baby steps, but move forward, you know, just like I said, you know, after a year or so, you'll look back and go, wow, you know, a lot of baby steps are behind me, you know, I've walked a couple miles now, you know, and
that's it.
Yeah.
Now, a cynical heado might think that when, you know, the therapist's eyes bugged out, she was thinking, ka-ching, I'm going to get this guy for months.
Yeah. Well, what's really funny is, and I'm not going to lie, in the back of my head, the whole time I've been in therapy, Skeptical Brian has had this, like, constant, like, all right, I'm looking for signs that I don't need this anymore, or that they are, I don't want to make them sound like they're, shady or whatever, but it's like, but they're, going for the money grab, basically, it's like, I gotta keep looking for that, cause if it feels like that's what they're doing, I'm out of here, like, I'm not gonna get duped or whatever, it's like, they're here to help you, like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's plenty of shady ones out there, just law of averages,
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the case with the one I have. But again, that skeptical, that voice is always back there. Just, hey, Brian. She's just trying to take your money, right? Like, shut up. Just.
They don't really want you to get better. Don't you know that? Yeah. They want you to stay sick.
What are you, stupid? This is the oldest game in the book. Yeah, it's.
Hey, this is my experience. One day I walked into my therapist's office and I said, I've been kind of wondering, how much, longer, are we going to be doing this and blah, blah, blah. And she said, I think I've been wondering, she's like, I've been actually wondering that, myself, maybe you should just go out there and, see how you're doing.
Yeah.
Go experience the world a little bit. And if you run into any little hiccups or little twists or turns that you need to talk about, you can come back then.
Yep. And that's exactly how it's supposed to work. Yep. You're only supposed to be in therapy as long as you need it, or you feel you need it, I should say, it's not really up to them. Although, there could be a point where they're like, I really don't think there's anything else to gain here kind of a situation. I could see, but again, that's, that's why I said, the very first time when my therapist was like, how often do you want to come back? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, what do you usually do? And she's like, it's up to you. She's like, you can come back in a week, a month, a year, she's like, kind of whenever you want to come back. And I was like, oh, like, I hadn't considered that. I expected to go, cause like when you go to a family doctor, generally you go in, they tell you this,
Yep.
It's pretty and you move forward. With therapy, it's not quite that way. It's like letting your dog run in an open field, it's like, there's sticks and things and balls and whatever. They can play with whatever they want, and you're like, for how long? Like, until they're tired. It's like, all right. So I was just, I had to really look at it. Cause I've mentioned here, where I'll go a few weeks without it and be like, I really need it. Like I can feel that I need to go, have that conversation. I need to visit that space. And there's other times where like the last time, I think it was a month and a half or so, or 2 months between my visits. And I was like, you know what? This wasn't that bad. I wasn't looking at that as it's time to stop. I was looking at it with, this seems like a good thing. If I don't need it as frequently, that seems like I've moved far enough that way that I'm seeing growth, celebrate the win, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. And lastly, these are all baby steps.
Yeah.
Little things we can all do to make some little changes. We talk about it enough that this stuff doesn't happen overnight. It takes practice.
Yeah.
It takes, getting out there and trying it and seeing what happens.
Right.
So,
yep.
So there you have it.
Yeah.
Nice little list.
I seriously thought that as, a late 30s man, that baby steps was ridiculous. But what you realize really fast when you start doing this kind of work in your head is it's necessary. You can speed up the baby steps, but you still need to be careful with, again, I don't drive. I have a fear of driving. I'm not going to go try to drive a NASCAR tomorrow. I'm not going to try to go around the track in one of those, like I need to, walk my way through it a little bit. There's certain things that, if I feel comfortable, I could probably, push through, but you still got to make sure that, you got to push a little bit, but also give yourself that, okay, I can stop,
Yep.
So yeah, baby steps. Take your power back. And play some Public Enemy.
Exactly. Yeah, boy.
not quite the message they were delivering, but, you know.
But hey, whatever.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yeah, I like that list. There's
it's
really good stuff in there. There's some of the stuff that it just kind of threw back in my face that it's like, hey, you need to work on this some more. You know, like some things that have maybe kind of slipped by the wayside because I'm thinking of something else, you know. So
yep.
Actually, like the one I talked about where, you know, with the fear blocking my way and stuff, it's like that's probably going to be my next, I don't know, 10 or 20 visits. So, oh man. All right.
Ching.
So, yeah, right.
I'm just going to start saying that.
No, it's the truth. I mean, not why they do it, or not why she seems to do it, cause, you know, whatever. But, yeah. So I guess, this is the part where I say, if you want to continue the conversation, you can wait for Brian to pull up an email because he forgot to pull this thing up. And there we go. You can go to our website, which is thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. You can email us if you'd like to at thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com. The show's Twitter is at thecrazylifepod. Jen can be found on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G. About you, Henno?
You can find me at Ida Henno, IDAHENNO. You can find me on Facebook at Henno Heitur. It's HEITUR.
What about that other podcast you got?
Oh, you can also sometimes hear me talking about Gotham or the Orville on the Gotham Lights podcast. Thank you. Very kind of you.
Yep.
On this last week, there was a gentleman who is dead to Brian.
I love the one response that was like, "You can't stay mad forever." And Tony, not Tony, oh God, who was it? I showed it to, and they were like, "They don't know you very well, do they?" I was like, "That's the old me. That's the old me." Yeah. Our Facebook group can be found at facebook.com/group/crazylifepodcast. And actually, I forgot to mention earlier, I'm going to add some new stuff to the notes section because I got a list today that's got a bunch of like helpful numbers. Like there's numbers on there for like abuse, transgender, runaway children. You know, there's a whole bunch of things that are not just depression or suicide kind of things, but just overall, you know, help for people. So I'm going to throw those things up in there to, you know, if anyone needs that kind of thing. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. My other podcast is at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. That show is not safe for work, so keep it away from the children's. Let's see, what am I forgetting here? We're part of the Tangentbound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. So please go give them a look and see if there's other podcasts you might be interested in. If you use iTunes, please rate, review, and subscribe. Actually, I gotta quit saying iTunes. It's Apple Podcasts. You know, please rate, review, and subscribe if you have not already. Wow, I lost my place already again. Oh, if you use Stitcher or Spotify or a different app, please use the like or share options. That helps us get visibility in their searches and whatnot. Yeah, I think that's it for the list there. So we're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals, just a couple of jerkies that are, you know, sharing their opinions, life experience, and, you know, an article here and there too. So please don't mistake this show as a replacement for therapy. If you need help, please seek it out. You know, as we said, you know, go get the estimate, see what's going on, and you can decide from there, you know. But please, if you feel like you might need help, please go seek it out. Don't wait. Because the longer you wait, the harder it is to dig out of, you know. I have first-hand experience. And if you feel as though you may harm yourself or others, please reach out to somebody, let them know how you're feeling. Call 911, take yourself to a hospital if you can. Have a friend come over. Try not to be alone during this time. Call one of the numbers or text one of the things. Like I said, they're over at our Facebook group, or just search for the suicide prevention hotline number. Excuse me. And if you see or catch yourself like writing notes or how you would do it, please reach out to somebody right then. That's a giant red flag that that something bad could happen. So please act on that before things, something bad does happen. And, obviously the last one, reach out to somebody this week, tell them you care about them, tell them you love them, ask them how they're doing. Whatever, or even better than just reaching out to somebody, show your vulnerability to someone this week.
There you go.
If you find somebody who's going through something you've gone through, maybe open up a little bit to them, may do good for both of you. So, yeah, there we go. So I guess with that, I know you want to take us out of here?
Yeah, like Jen always reminds us, wiggle your toes, keep breathing, and live your omelet. And if the omelet doesn't quite seem right, live a Benedict.